are so glad you are here with us. We are in a series called Family Matters, and your family matters, and that's why we're talking about it. And we all have stuff that, our family matters. They're kind of our family issues, and we don't always like to talk about those things, but we're trying to kind of bring those things out in the open and say, let's address those clearly and openly. And we're going to spend a couple weeks on boundaries. So kind of boundaries for healthy families. So that's kind of the thought for today. And we'll at least go one more week. I might go 2 or 3. I don't know. I'm not sure. But boundaries are a big deal. Boundaries are a big deal. But so let's kind of look back at our little definition. Should be on the screen of a healthy family. Some of you probably almost have this memorized by now, right? That a healthy family, or it could be an organization, a business, a church, or an individual, is one who can see themselves objectively and has the courage to make the necessary adjustments and changes to become who they need to be, a unit or a collection of people that illustrate a maturing love for God and others and reflect God's glory and His purposes. In the ballpark? In the hunt? Somewhere in there? Was it on the screen? Good, excellent. So that's a healthy family. So you're going, okay, so my family's not healthy. So what? Notice that in that definition, there's nothing about perfect. Right, there's no perfect families out there. Nobody's got a perfect family. There are no perfect churches. There are no perfect organizations. But we all can move away from places where we are dysfunctional or things are not working, and we can move towards things that are getting better. But we cannot do that if we don't have greater objectivity. You have objectivity? You got that? Where you can see things and go, I recognize things are not very good here, or things are great here. And someone else would say the same thing because you're objective. Or do you ever have a perspective that no one else agrees with? That's subjective, okay? So what we want to do is grow in our objectivity. And that's oftentimes with boundaries, that's kind of, we don't see it. When we're right in the middle of a bad boundary, we don't really see it. We don't recognize it. And so we want to kind of shed some light on what bad boundaries look like. So I want to give you a couple stories, true stories, okay? There's a gal, let's call her Tina. She's a single mom, and she's at an event, she's at a party, and her teenage son, Stephen, comes up and says to Tina, Mom, let's get out of here. It's time to go home. And Tina's right in the middle of a conversation. And she goes, just hang on, Stephen, I'm doing something. And Stephen gets more angry. Mom, I'm done with this. Let's get out of here. And Tina says, excuse me, my son wants to go home, and she exits the party. See anything wrong with that? Okay, that's because you're objective. It's not your family, is it? So you're objective enough to kind of recognize there's something kind of amiss with Tina and her son Stephen's relationship, where Stephen is kind of leveraging mother in a direction she may not want to move in, but she does to kind of keep the peace. The Duke of Windsor came to America, and he said, something really impressed me about America. It's how the parents mind their children. I think he must have had some objectivity, because what he saw was almost a switching, that there was so much power in the child's life that they literally were directing and maneuvering the adults to their liking. That's a boundary issue. Here's another one, true story. We'll call this guy Stephen, since maybe he grew up. So Stephen is getting a job interview, and he sits down with the interviewer, and he knew ahead of time there was going to be a 40-minute interview. 20 minutes into the interview, the interviewer from the HR department said, Stephen, thanks for coming in today, but the interview's over, but I appreciate you coming in. And he's like, what? This is supposed to be a 40-minute interview. I mean, why would you end it in 20 minutes? She says, well, you want an honest answer? Of course I do. Yeah, I want the job. I mean, did you see all the experience I had? Did you see all the education I've got? And she goes, Stephen, the entire time we've been interviewing, you've been on your phone. True story, right? I have other jokes I'll tell you later, but this is just a true story, right? True story. And Stephen's like, you got to be kidding me. What's wrong with that? She goes, well, that's part of the problem. You don't know what's wrong with that. Thank you for coming in today. Stephen left. 2 hours after his departure, she got a phone call. Guess from who? His mother. True story. She wanted to know why she would pass up Stephen because he's got so many good qualities. You see, last week we kind of dipped into the idea of over-parenting. I'll give some other styles of parenting in a little bit, of over-parenting, because that person that over-parents, they don't just over-mother, they over-smother. right? I mean, they just got to make sure everything about their kid's life is just the way they want it as the parent. And in so doing, we rob our kids of the opportunity to learn responsibility. So we're gonna kind of, what we talk about today will tie right back into responsibility, because it's one of those things that really is literally, that's our job. I mean, as parents, it is our job to start as soon as possible. I don't care how old your kids are, find something for them to do. Give them some way to contribute to the benefit and the welfare of the family, and let them experience natural consequences. We talked about two things last week. Primarily, we talked about entrusting our children with greater responsibility. And we talked about training them or teaching them through greater discipline. And I compared and I contrasted, differentiated, if you will, discipline from punishment. How many were here last week? So if there's confusion about discipline and punishment, I encourage you, grab that tape, get the message, go online, listen to it, because we have to differentiate. We've said throughout the whole series that parents do two things really. They create things. They create a safe environment. They create a place where a child can grow and mature, where they know their spot in the family. We also said that parents differentiate. They can tell things apart. They can separate things. Because in a dysfunctional family, things get very convoluted and very confusing, and we're not sure what's going on. But a healthy family has the objectivity that once it's been exposed, they can begin to kind of separate those things out and say, oh, punishment has to do with the past. It's a penalty for the past, whereas discipline is preparation for the future. So they begin to kind of differentiate those things, and they recognize as a child of God the objectivity to say, we don't ever want to punish our children. We want to discipline them. Because why don't I want to punish my children? Because God doesn't want to punish me. I mean, once you've said yes to Jesus, He was the punishment for your sin. He took it on Himself. And so we want to parent like God parents. And Hebrews tells us, chapter 12 tells us of Hebrews, that God disciplines His children like a loving father disciplines their children. That discipline, so we differentiated those things. So today, as we open up the idea about boundaries, we're going to talk about what boundaries are. One of my favorite passages about a boundary is Titus chapter 2, verse 11 through 15, I think, 14, 15. So look at that. It should be in your notes, probably on the screen. I don't know if this is for Brother Grace Kid. The first part is a little different translation. For the grace of God has appeared, offering salvation to all people. Look at this. It teaches us, circle the word teaches. It teaches us to do what? Say no. Now this is going to be kind of the big point you walk away with today, is if you have a boundary, you can say no and you can hear no. If you have a boundary, if you're good with boundaries, you can say no and you can hear no. The grace of God teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions and to live, circle the word, self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age while we wait for the blessed hope, the glorious appearing of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ, who gave Himself for us to redeem us from all wickedness and to purify Himself a people that are His very own, look at this, underline, eager to do what is good. Okay, when you've got boundaries, you are freed up to do well, to do good, because you've got the energy to do good. Have you ever felt like you just didn't have any, you just were giving so much, you had no more energy even to do good? Ever feel like that? Like you're just kind of so burned out, you wonder, how can I even continue? It's good stuff, but how can I continue? Somewhere along the line, your sense of boundaries were lost, and you thought to be a good Christian, you had to say yes to everything. Yes to everything. Now, some of us don't have that problem, but some of us do. We say yes until we're burned out, and then we say, no, I don't want any more of it. Some of us are in that way in a marriage. You've said yes in a marriage, and you never knew how to say no in a marriage, and you're just burned out, you're fried, you're crispy, and you're saying, I don't know if I have any more to give. Some of you are that way in a job because you thought with your job you had to say yes, because if you said no, maybe you would lose the job, you'd lose the promotion, you'd lose the raise, and so you've just gotten burned out on your job. Yeah, it's a good job, but it's just taking more of you. Why? Because you gave more of you than you needed or should have given, because you didn't know how to say no. So, we might need more than 2 weeks on this. So I want to give you a little definition of boundary. So kind of underneath that scripture, a boundary is the ability to love and set healthy limits. A boundary is simply the ability to love and set healthy limits. And when you struggle with your boundaries, you struggle to set those limits. You struggle to say no internally or externally, and it begins to kind of catch up with you because you write checks. When you can't say no, you end up writing checks. You don't have any emotional reserve to cash. And so, why? Because your emotional account is already bankrupt. You're overdrawn. People who have poor boundaries can't say no, and they can't hear no from others. There was a police officer, and he called the station and said, "I've got an interesting one here. I'm on the scene, and there's a woman who shot her husband because he stepped on her floor she just mopped." And they said, "Well, have you arrested her?" And he said, "No, the floor's still wet." See, he understood her no. Obviously, her husband did not. See, part of what a healthy boundary is recognizing when someone says no, they mean no. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to push my way in. I'm not going to make it happen because they've told me a no. I'm going to respect their no. When you've got the ability to have boundaries, you can see someone's no, you can respect someone's no. But that is a lot easier said than done. Just ask Tina, whose son Stephen had to leave because she learned somewhere when she did not set boundaries when he was littler that when he threw tantrums, all she wanted to do was hide his tantrum. All she wanted to do was keep the peace at any price. And so because she's never said no, and now he's an adolescent, he's a teenager, he's as big as she is, and no is harder than it's ever been. Or what about the mother that rescued the son at the job interview? She couldn't handle somebody else's no. You see, someone with good boundaries can not only say no, they can hear no. Neither one of these mothers could hear no because no one ever really illustrated or helped them understand good boundaries. If there was an overarching verse that I would throw into the mix that is not in your notes, I'll give you Proverbs 4:23. You might write it down. As soon as I say it, you'll go, "Oh, I know that verse." Proverbs 4:23 says, "Guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life." Now, when the Hebrews talked about heart, they talked about the very core of a person's being, the center of who they are. From our core come our values, come our principles, come our passions. And that place of our heart, whenever we don't guard it, we just give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away. Pretty soon, all those things that matter don't seem like they matter anymore because we're spread so thin we can't attend to them. And so now all of a sudden I've got to do some sort of reconfiguring of what's going on inside and ask myself deeper questions of why do I always give in? Or why can't I hear someone else when they say no, or I can't, or I'm not this time? Why do I want to fight against that? Why do I want to wrestle them for a yes? It's because maybe boundaries have been missing in your life, and you've been giving your heart, and your heart's been trampled on, or you're not sensitive to others' hearts. There's some styles of parenting. This is kind of an overarching thing. You might see yourself in one of these. We had the over-parenting. We talked about that last week, the helicopter, that helicopter parent that just watches everything your child does and, swoops down anytime and kind of fixes things. And then there's the Black Hawk parent that shoots anybody that gets in the way of your child, right? You just pounce on anybody that looks at your child cross-eyed. That's an over-parenting style. You've got the critical parent that's you can never do anything right. A lot of you kind of have that parent, and one person said, "My mother is a travel agent for guilt trips." It's just like if you don't do it, she's so critical and the guilt comes on and, oh my gosh, you cave in because of the weight of the guilt. You've got the no-wave parenting. This sometimes are the Disney dads, right? That's a separated family, and because they only see the child occasionally, all they want to do is just go with the flow. They're easy. They're not going to set limits. They're not going to set boundaries. Why? Because they feel so bad, right? A little guilt there themselves. They don't want to put anything on their child because they have such little time with them. When kids one guy said, I figured it out. I finally figured it out. This is one of these guys. He said, finally figured it out. When my kids are unruly and wild, I just find a safe playpen. And when they stop, I crawl out. The dad, the mom that doesn't make any waves is just trying to keep the peace at any price. Then you've got the distracted parent. And the distracted parent is doing everything but attending to their children. And so their children are attending to themselves. And whatever they want usually goes, because it's easier to say yes than set a boundary, because I've got so many things that I'm doing. My job's got me up to here. My other relationships, my hobbies and my intramurals, I'm going in so many directions. I don't have the energy or time to also parent, so I'll leave that possibly to the other parent. It's a distracted parent. It's the ignore and zap parent. Ignore and zap parent. This is the parent that looks like they're pretty easygoing. They're going along and yeah, everything's fine. They're the fun father, fun mother, until something clicks. And then it's like, they get all bad, right? And zap the kid and come down hard, overly hard. Maybe you see yourself in one of these parents. Can I propose a better parent? Can I propose the parent that we want to move to, that we want to be? And I'm going to call this parent just the parent that parents with love and limits. When a parent can love with limits, they build responsibility and self-control. Two things we talked about last week that kids are absolutely desperate for if we are to do our job, because it's our job to raise responsible adults that can handle responsibility and achieve in a world that's constantly telling them otherwise. Now, here's the problem. You can't help your kids set good boundaries if you ain't got good boundaries. You can't give away what you don't have. We can't expect our children to listen to our advice and ignore our example. And so we've got to kind of look in. We did a little bit of self-evaluation during communion, and I would suggest we continue to ask ourselves, do I ask my kids to listen to my advice and ignore my example? Do I struggle to set limits for my kids because I struggle, honestly, to set limits for myself? I still kind of struggle because maybe I'm 33, but sometimes I act like I'm 13. I still want to have everything, do everything, be everywhere. And I have a hard time whenever my spouse tries to corral me or tell me no. If that resonates with anybody, if you not only resent that remark, you resemble it. Maybe boundaries is a great opportunity for you to kind of recognize, wow, there's some things maybe I can learn in this one. And so 3 things that I want to do today. I just want us to 3 big ways, 3 big areas to say no to. 3 big areas to say no to, and the repercussions are immense. And so if you could leave and you could say, boy, I'm going to grab onto that one, that'd be fabulous. You're on first base. If you could say, I'm going to grab that second one too, you're not on second base. If you grab the third one, you're on third base and you're almost home. And so the truth is, the more of these you can grab and say, I struggle to say no, but I need to start saying no to these 3 things. And this is just going to get us started. Because next week we're going to pick back up again and talk more specifically about kids and boundaries with kids. But let's talk about boundaries in us. Let's talk about boundaries in us. Because I can't give away what I don't have. I can't help them to practice what I've not employed. I can't nurture their discipline in this if I am totally undisciplined in this. And so 3 powerful ways, places to say no. The first one is say no to a distracted, crazy schedule. Say no to a distracted, crazy schedule. How's your schedule? Are you going from the beginning of the day to the end of the day with hardly a breath in between? Do you feel like there's constantly more to do than you've got energy or time to accomplish? Then maybe you are struggling with a distracted, crazy schedule. We've said differentiation is something we would do over and over again. I'll give you 3 areas of differentiation today. The first one is this: to differentiate between pressures and priorities. To differentiate between pressures and priorities. Have you ever felt the pressure inside you to say yes when you felt like the better answer was no? Have you ever felt that? Anyone ever feel that? Oh, good. There's a lot of you that are honest and some of you that are liars. Because we've all felt that to some degree, right? We've all felt the pressure to say yes when we knew deep down this should be no. Maybe it's your kid that comes up and they want to stay out a little bit later tonight, and you feel like that's past your curfew. I should say no, but you know what? I don't want to make waves. I'm a single parent, so I say yes. Maybe it's the fact that you've already grounded your child, but they've just come back with a great opportunity that you would not believe it. It comes only once in a lifetime, Dad. You got to let me do this. And so even though you think I should probably say no, stick to my guns, I cave in, I acquiesce, and I say yes this time. But they know it's not just this time. It's any time they turn on the charm. It's any time they turn up the heat. It's any time the pressure comes on. They know that you'll melt like a wick on a candle. You'll just fall. You'll just cave right into it. And so whenever that's happening with schedules and things in your kid's life and your life, if you can't manage your schedule, then probably you have no ability to kind of help your child figure out how to manage theirs. But if they don't learn it now, then they're in for the same kind of rat race that you're experiencing as well. We've got to learn to say no to a distracted schedule. We've got to differentiate between pressures and priorities, because your schedule can make you crazy. Your crazy schedule can make you crazy. I remember being in college, and I was probably a reflection of what is going on in society. I was getting my flip chart up here. If I had my flip chart up here, I'd say that I'd draw two lines and I'd put around here like 13 and 18. That used to be adolescence. But what's happened is that adolescence has been extended now. And so it's not uncommon to hear someone, a professor in college, say 26 is the new 18. That where a kid was when they were 18, oftentimes they're behaving this way when they're 26. But because of media, because of technology, now we've got an interesting dilemma going on. We've got kids who they're over-informed. They got more information than they've ever had before at their fingertips. And they've been on a device since they were 3. And so they can out-device you any day. Right? And so they are getting more information earlier, but they have less. They're underdeveloped skill-wise to know how to manage it. So we'll tease this out more in the weeks to come. Because of that, not only is adolescence being extended into the 20s, it's also dipping into the elementary years. And so you get kids that are 8, 9, 10, and 11, and they're dressing like they were 14, 15, or 16. You get kids, why? Because they're overexposed to information. They've been searching the web since they were 6. And so they've seen probably more on there than you've ever seen. And so you have this expanded idea where children think they're more mature than they are, and they last more immature than any of us can imagine. And so because of that, why is that happening? Because of boundaries. Because we've not created schedules that allow our kids to recognize it's now time in the schedule to put the device down, to put the phone away. If I don't have any boundaries to my devices, they probably won't have any to theirs. And so we've got to begin to kind of look at our calendar and say, I don't want to go crazy in life. Scripture kind of talks about this. It doesn't talk about technology, but it talks about what matters most. Look what it says in Ephesians 5:15. Live life then with a due sense of, what's the next word? Circle it. What is it? Responsibility, not as those who do not know and understand the meaning of life, meaning and purpose of life, but those who do. Make the best use of your time. This is for sure, right? Despite all the difficulties these days. Look at this. Don't be vague, but firmly grasp what you know the will of God to be. I mean, so what Paul's challenging us to do is to think about what matters most. What matters most in life? Because I guarantee you, in life, most of you are not out robbing banks. You're not out trying to loot your neighbors. You're not out doing terrible, awful, no good, very bad things. Because for you, it's not most of us, a few of you probably, most of us though, it's not these bad things we want to do that compete with these good things we want to do. It's the good things we want to do that compete with the best and better things we should be doing. And so we have a culture that is getting constantly chewed up with all these good things and don't have enough time or energy left for the best and better things. God wants us to recognize you're a child of God. You know that responsibility, the ability to respond well to the right stuff. You can do that, but that's going to require some better boundaries literally around your clock. Literally around your calendar. How do you spend your day? Because I guarantee you, fuzzy boundaries will produce fuzzy results. Clear boundaries, not boundaries that are vague, but clear boundaries will produce clear benefits for you and for your children, for your marriage, for your relationships. Oftentimes we simply say, affirming what Jesus said about seeking first his kingdom, is if you put first things first, you get good things. C.S. Lewis said it this way. He said, put first things first, put first things first, and second things are just thrown in. That's Matthew 33, isn't it? Matthew, seek first my kingdom, and all these other things will be given to you as well. Put first things first, and second things are thrown in. Put second things first, and lose both first and second things. You see, when our priorities are not straight, all of a sudden our objectives become so obscured because there's so many things that I think I've got to accomplish and I've got to do because I've not narrowed my focus to what is most important, and so everything's blurred. Carnegie, the steel mogul of 100 years ago, Carnegie had a man named Charles Schwab that worked for him in the middle of the last century. And Charles Schwab was one of his main executives, was a brilliant man, but was struggling in managing the steel business. U.S. Steel was the company. Struggling. So he heard Carnegie says, I think you ought to talk to Lee Ivey. Lee Ivey is a brilliant statistician and understands kind of how to maximize things. I think you ought to talk to Lee. And so Schwab did. He made an appointment. Lee Ivey came in. They sat down, and he just said, man, I'm having a hard time. I feel like I'm getting nothing done. I mean, all the things that are just clamoring for my attention just take me and spin me in every direction. I'm spread so thin, I can't get anything done. And Ivey listened to him kind of, go on about his dilemma and conundrum and said, here's my advice. I want you to write down the 6 most important things to do first thing when you get to the office. Write down the 6 most important. Just stop, pause, shut the door, put the phone on silent. Stop and pause and think, what are the 6 most important things that if I got them done today, this would be the top things for me to do. Write them down, top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and begin doing them in that order. And the next day, whatever you did not get accomplished the previous day, roll into the next. If you roll 2 in, put another 4. If you roll 3 in, put another 3. And just continue that every single day. Be rigid, be relentless. Do not stop it. Stay at it. Give yourself a solid month. Make it your new habit of how to manage your time. And Schwab says, well, what do I owe you for this great advice? And he says, I don't know. You tell me. You write me a check for whatever you think it's worth. And he walked out the door. 1 month time, Lee Ivey received a check from Charles Schwab for $25,000. Because someone helped him gain objectivity. Objectivity about his calendar and how he's living his life and where he's spending his energy and his thoughts and his attention. And if no one helps us get objectivity, we're just going to feel like we're in this tornado of stuff that goes on day in, day out, and pulling our hair out. But if we could just gain objectivity, we could live life with a due sense of responsibility, not as those who do not know and understand the meaning and purpose of life, but those who do. Why? Because our time matters. How you spend your time matters. The boundaries that you create around your time either says your family's a priority or not. Your faith's a priority or not. A story was told, written in the New York Times, about a gal named Diana Knorr, K-N-O-R-R, Diana Knorr. And Diana was a very driven type A personality. She was a .com executive. When she was in college, she set a goal that by the time she reached 40, she wanted to, by the time she reached 49, before she hit 50, she wanted to have a 6-figure income. She had the sense that, if I push hard, I'm more valuable. She remembers receiving her first call from a fellow executive after hours, and she thought it was such a grand compliment. She felt like, now I'm on the inside of all the other execs with this .com industry. Wow, feels so good. But life and balance started getting a little bit sideways, and Pretty soon she wasn't seeing her kids much. She had this tendency to feel in competition with her coworkers. I mean, if she left at 5:30 and they left at 6:30, then surely she was the slacker and she wasn't pulling her own weight. And so, of course, she wanted to make sure she was the last one there and first one there and the last one to leave. And so she lived that kind of lifestyle over and over and over and over again until finally she just felt like my life's literally, I'm losing everything that matters or has value the most. And when she reached that six figure, she was 35. She reached it, almost 15 years earlier than she had anticipated and had set the goal. And she goes, that's what did it. No balloons dropped. Nobody stood up and applauded. Nobody says, aren't you an amazing, amazing mother? They would never have said that. Aren't you an amazing wife? They wouldn't have said that. They could have only said one thing. Aren't you an amazing executive? She goes, at that moment, I knew my life had to change. She quit her job and went to work for a nonprofit. Why? Because her schedule was killing her. And it took her from the years when she finished her master's until she was 35 to gain objectivity. You see, objectivity is pretty important, isn't it? It's pretty valuable. What would you pay? $25,000 for objectivity? Charles Schwab did. What would you pay for just someone to kind of turn the lights on and say, my gosh, what are you doing? What are you doing to your family? What are you doing to your marriage? What are you doing to your priorities in life? And it's taking you in the wrong direction. And if you can't settle your boundaries, how is your kids going to settle theirs? We've got to say no to a crazy schedule. There's a couple questions here to ask yourself. Ask, what are the better priorities? What are my better priorities or the best priorities? And say no to secondary pleasures so you can say yes to better priorities. Number two, not only say no to crazy schedule, say no to resisting pain. You're going to love this one. Say no to resisting pain or rescuing others from pain. Wait a second, isn't that our job? Isn't our job to kind of help people not experience pain? That's not your job. It's not your job. To help others avoid pain. You won't find a verse about that. Why? Because God loves to use pain. Romans chapter 5, verse 3 and 4, look what it says. This whole text is really, really good, but I just plucked out the most meaty part with what we're talking about. Resist, say no to resisting pain. Have you ever done that? Resist pain? Ever medicated pain? That's resisting pain. Ever try to escape pain by saying yes instead of no because you know your no is not going to be popular, it's not going to be liked, it's going to be resisted, and so you want to resist pain, so you say yes, and you keep saying yes, and you keep allowing stuff to happen inside you, and your kids are picking up on the clues, and they're saying yes, 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 yes. They got an insane schedule, and yours is now insane because you let theirs be insane, and you are now the taxi of their insane schedule. Right? So it's eating you up because you don't want to feel pain. Why do I let the schedule go to pot? Because I don't want to feel pain. If I start putting boundaries and parameters around, that wouldn't feel good. I'd disappoint somebody. They may not like me as much as they used to, so I don't want the feeling of that pain. But Paul said, not only so, but we also rejoice in our suffering because we know that suffering, what does it do? It produces something. This is suffering and pain are synonymous, okay? Suffering produces what? What does it produce? Perseverance. And perseverance produces what? Character. And character produces what? Hope. Oh, because when character is being built, it's like you get objectivity. You gain this perspective that, you know what, I think we can get through this problem because look at all the other problems we've gotten through. You see how pain, what character does to pain? It sees it objectively. I mean, I'll tell you, couples that can get through crises are preparing themselves to endure future crises. Couples that cannot endure a crisis probably will never see another crisis, right? Because they bailed at that one. And so the sooner you bail on the crisis, the less endurance you've got for the next one. But every crisis you endured, every crisis you learn from, every crisis you harvest and glean from, you get better for. And the better piece is you become a better person. You become more empathetic to others in crisis. You become more focused, less distracted. You become more resilient to the challenges around you. You become the marriage that made it. You become the person that fulfilled their responsibilities without overworking their schedule. You become the person whose kids cooperate, not perfect, not fail-proof, but kids who represent a balanced life, a faithful and rich with God, and who want to be with their parents instead of want to do anything they can to get away from their parents. How's that happen? It happens when you learn the power of pain. That's what it happens. I want you to differentiate between hurt and harm. You see, if I can begin to differentiate between hurt and harm, I'm moving down the road towards saying no to resisting pain or trying to rescue others from pain. Because if I think that everything that hurts is also harmful, then those are mixed together and they're convoluted, and I don't want to hurt their feelings, and I don't want to hurt them if I say no, and I don't want to hurt if they can't do this. And so now all of a sudden, you've not hurt your kids, but you've actually harmed them. Because in so saying yes again and again and again, you have not hurt them, but you harmed them because you've incapacitated their ability to set limits themselves. Differentiate hurt from harm. My dentist sometimes hurts me. I don't always want to go see him because he sticks his little needle in and does all kinds of stuff in my mouth. And it's like, who said you could come in my mouth like that? And he's in there hurting me. But he's never harmed me. In fact, really, we're going to come up on the biggest candy day of the year, and you're probably going to overindulge. And it's not going to hurt you, but it could harm you. So you go back to the dentist who's going to hurt you, but not harm you. Right? So we're going to recognize that there's things in life that, yeah, they hurt, but the hurt is like, it's temporary, it's trivial, because it's actually a stepping stone to helping me, not to harming me. And so only when I begin to differentiate between hurt and harm am I empowered to be someone who's not taken aback by a little discomfort. Scott Peck said it like this: what does a life of total dedication to the truth mean? It means, first of all, a life of continuous, never-ending self-examination. To have such discipline, we must be totally dedicated to the truth. That is to say, we must always consider the truth to be more important, more vital to our self-interest than our comfort. Conversely, we must always consider our personal discomfort relatively unimportant, and indeed even welcome it in the service of the search for truth. Was I close? You see what he's saying? That this idea with comfort is I've got to start getting more comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the child that understands how to stay the course. That's the child that may be frustrated when they hear a no, but they're resilient. It's like they don't spend their entire night pouting in their room. They spent 15 minutes and got it over with. I mean, teenagers are not without pouting, no matter what kind of teenager you are. Even the best will have a little bit of reactive behavior, but they're resilient enough to recognize that this one little boundary, this one little governor on their desires is not a big deal. Because they have a parent that will negotiate with them. They've got a parent that's consistent with them. Because when that parent says yes, they know it's a yes. When that parent says no, they know it's a no. Because why? Because you've helped them differentiate between hurt and harm. Look what beautiful example of this. In the Message Bible in 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 9 through 13, it says, the letter upset you. Paul's written a letter to the Corinthians, and he's kind of shared some things that were a little bit difficult, a little bit hard. He says, the letter upset you, but only for a while. Look at the temporary nature of that hurt. Now I'm glad, not that you were upset. Have you ever just kind of been so upset that someone was upset that you couldn't stop being upset because they were so upset at being upset? Ever have that happen? You're upset, but that you were jarred into turning around. You let the distress bring you to God, not drive you from Him. The result was all gain, no loss. Distress that drives us to God does that. It gets us back in the way of salvation. We never regret that kind of pain. But those who let distress drive them away from God are full of regrets. end up on a deathbed of regrets. And now, isn't it wonderful? All the ways in which this distress has goaded you closer to God. You're more alive, more concerned, more sensitive, more reverent, more human, more passionate, more, here it is, responsible. Oh, pain, pain, pain. You know somebody who's a pain? Maybe they're a blessing. Who knows? Maybe they're a blessing. There was a fellow that was after work one Friday night. He got his paycheck, and rather than go home, he just went partying with the boys. And he was out all night Friday and all day Saturday, and came home late on Sunday. Spent his entire paycheck. His wife just let into him. And quite appropriately expressed her frustration with his, egregious, overspending, lack of boundaries, and unhealthy lifestyle. And she goes, how'd you like it if you didn't see me for 3 days? He said, I could handle it. Monday came, didn't see her. Tuesday came, didn't see her. Wednesday came, didn't see her. Thursday came, finally he got a glimpse out of his right eye where the swelling started to go down. You got to differentiate between hurt and harm. And so she didn't have very good boundaries either, okay. So I got to zip through here because we're losing time. But let me just tell you, we fail to say no. Here's some reasons why. So I know that you're probably feeling like, like you're stuck against the wall, like, let me go, Pastor. How do you get out of this? So let me pull a few of the pins out and say, maybe this is the reason why you struggle to say no. See if one of these fit. We struggle to say no because we fear loss of relationship. We fear loss of relationship. We fear, if I say no, maybe they'll abandon me. If I say no, maybe they'll leave the relationship. If I say no, maybe they won't talk to me anymore. Number one. Number two, we fail to say no when we need to because we fear someone's anger. Someone's anger. They're gonna blow a cork. They're gonna lose their cool. It's gonna be horrific, and I can't handle their anger. Number one, lost relation. Two, someone's anger. 3, you fail to say no when you need to because you fear feeling guilty. You fear guilt. After a conflict where you lost it, maybe now you feel so bad that you say yes when you should say no because you just don't want to feel guilty anymore. You somehow want the guilt to just go away. So you struggle to say no. Here's something to ask yourself. Ask yourself, where do I need to grow in my character? Where do I need to grow in my character? Because I promise you, here's one thing I know for sure. I don't even know what kind of problems you have right now, but I bet you do. I bet you do. I don't know if you got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. I don't know how many problems you got, but this is what I know. I know that whatever your problem is, that's the tool. That's the tool. You name it, you pick it out. It's a relationship problem. It's a drug problem. It's a schedule problem. It's a pain problem. Whatever your struggle is, whatever it is, I don't care what it is, whatever it is, here's what I know. This is what I guarantee you. Whatever your problem is, that's the tool God wants to use to change your character. And the time is now. That's the tool that God, the God of eternity, the God of all power, the God that can take your suffering and turn it into perseverance and turn it into character and turn it into hope. That's the God that wants to take all of that and use it for your well-being and your good. All you got to do is say, God, I give you my struggle, I give you my problem, I give you my pain. Here it is. What do you want to teach me? Ask the Lord, how do you want to help me grow? Say no to running from pain so you can say yes to learning from it. And here's a bigger thing, from even modeling for your children. No matter their age. No matter their age. How to face their pain. C.S. Lewis said, God whispers to us in our pleasures. He speaks to us in our conscience, but He screams and shouts at us in our pain. Pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world. And sometimes we are the ones who are deaf. The last one. This last one is big. I'll probably go short on it, but it's big, so I might come back next week. Isolation. Say no to isolation. Why? Because you need one another. You need one another. John Trent, in his book Boundaries, talks about many, many great things, but he suggests that every one of us should have 3 to 7 people who know everything about us. Not just your spouse, but 3 to 7 people who know everything about you. Because we need one another. I don't know where you're at with your parenting. You might feel like you're in deep water and way over your head. You might feel like you're swimming for dear life and you're drowning under the pressure to say yes when you know you should say no. I don't know where it's at for you, but I know this. You will do much better if you don't swim alone. If you don't try to do it all by yourself. Isolation will kill you. Isolation will kill your faith. It'll drain you of your energy. It'll make you feel like you're a problem and you're all alone and nobody understands. When there's people all around you that have similar problems, know your pain, and maybe they've learned something that they would generously share. Ephesians says, then we will no longer then, and this idea of then is when we understand that we are part of the body of Christ. This then means that we have chosen from staying outside to coming on the inside, from being isolated to being integrated. Then we will no longer be infants. And by the way, an infant has no boundaries. We do everything for them. They have no ability to speak and say no. They're helpless. But we're not. But then we'll no longer be infants. And this is what someone does when they don't have boundaries. They're tossed by the waves of the sea. They're blown here and there. Then we will no longer be infants tossed back and forth by the wind and everywhere. Instead, speaking the truth in love. This is what you do when you have boundaries. Instead, you speak the truth. I'm sorry, sweetheart. You cannot go out tonight because you violated the curfew last night. Instead, we speak the truth in love. I'm sorry, dear. I love you, but if you want to do that, your chores still have to be finished, and so you're going to be late. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up into him who is the head, that is Christ. From him, the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament. Look what it does. It grows. That's what good boundaries help us do. It grows and builds itself up in love. And this is what someone does if they've got responsibility. So every part does its work. The person without responsibilities doesn't know they're not able to respond to little things like they're part of the job, they're part of the family, they're part of the work. But people that understand boundaries say no to a crazy, distracted schedule. People that have good boundaries say no to resisting pain and see it as their friend and not their enemy. They say no to rescuing others from pain because they know that they've differentiated hurt from harm. They say no to isolation because they know that so easily they lose perspective and they swallowed up in subjectivity whenever they isolate. And so they break through that and let God shine into their life and give them the objectivity to be people that say, I don't want to be a lone ranger. I want to be included in the family of God because I need that family to help me see what I cannot see, so I can have the courage to change what I previously have not changed, so I can become who I need to be, a person that illustrates a maturing love for God and others and glorify God and his purposes. I want to invite the prayer team to come up. That's my best quick abbreviated point 3. We get through that okay? I want to bring our prayer team up, and I want you to know that we're happy just to hang out and pray with you. I don't know what you got going on. I know that I stirred the pot, okay? I know it. I know I stirred it up a little bit because all of us can get better with our boundaries. And so, I kind of opened this can of worms, and I'm going to kind of keep it open for a couple of weeks. And we're going to build some skills and some awareness and some better objectivity. Why? Because our families matter. Your marriage matters. Your family and relationship with the people of God matter. And God has never intended for you to be a lone ranger. He's never intended for you to fly alone. He's never intended you to be isolated. He's always intended for you to be integrated into other relationships where you know you're loved and cherished, affirmed, and accepted. And that's what God has for your future, is a burgeoning, beautiful, responsible connection to others that continues to yield fruit, 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 yield. That's what he wants to do in you. I know it. And he can when you set a few boundaries. Heavenly Father, we just want to say we need you, we love you, and we're desperate for you. Not only for you, God, but we want your eyes to see and ears to hear. We want objectivity to our schedules. I want to challenge you, one last little challenge before we go. As I pray, you pray. As I pray, you pray. Does it resonate when I say that you need some help with your schedule? You're the one that can do that. You can say no to the good so you can say yes to the better or the best. And if you do it, you can help your kids do it. You can say no to resisting pain. Maybe that's for you. Maybe you're a pain avoider. You know it. You're a wimp when it comes to telling someone yes when you should say no, including yourself. Just say, Jesus, I need help in this area. God, I need help in this area because my family matters. And some of you feel so alone. My heart aches and breaks for you because you don't have to be alone. We've got literally 95 groups going on right now in the context of Yosemite Church. There's plenty of places for you to plug in, be included, differentiate from being around people, from being with people. They're with you. When they're with you, you know it, you feel it. Lord Jesus, help us to be with one another and let your grace flow among us. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.